kingdom within me. Breaking through barriers, success is what I see.
Well, welcome to Dunamis Women. Today, I am Dee Collins, the host of the show, and we have a real talk topic, a show that's just for you. Man, how often do you experience people in your life comparing themselves to someone else? Have you compared yourself to someone else, inhibiting yourself from being the powerful woman or the real awesome man that you are? Ariel, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm
so
doing
glad
good.
you hanging with your old mama, aren't you?
Yes.
Or your young mama. You know what? That comparison is something that you deemed relevant to discuss, particularly as it relates to life and relationships in various facets. Tell me why.
I feel like we live in a world of constant comparison, comparing our purpose to someone else's purpose, comparing our who we are as women to another woman in a relationship, comparing salaries compared to someone else's salaries. I mean, we're constantly looking at the next person. We're constantly looking at to the left or the right and saying, okay, well, should this be different? Should this not be different? And I feel like it's getting to a point now where comparison is now allowing us to doubt ourselves and get in a more deeper state of depression instead of launching to where we necessarily need to go. And so it's just huge because comparison is really killing Christians today in this day and world, and we take it lightly, but it's very, very real.
A lot of that, you know, it comes because we really don't know who we are.
Exactly.
Not just as a man or a woman, but particularly as a people. And you cannot relate to people if you don't really know yourself. And you can't relate to people if you don't realize that people is a community. It's a body of people. And in that, it's a whole lot of differences.
Exactly.
It's a whole lot of diversity. I am so glad that all of us are not black people. I'm so glad that I'm not a white person. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't matter about the epidermis sometimes, because it's about who we are and staying in the fact of who God made us to be and what tribe, lineage, or race He's put us in. And I think the main thing is that we cannot compare and still walk in our true authenticity.
No, it doesn't work that way. And I think a lot of times there should be more teaching of understanding your identity, understanding who you are as an individual. Like you always talk about the I am. And even in today's day and world, in this age, I feel like there's just so much that's pushed out to us that is imagery, that allows you to compare yourself, that allows you to make you feel. And sadly, like I said, I don't like to step on people's toes, but sadly, people believe that that is helping young Christians when it's really hindering and hurting young Christians, because you are pushing something in front of them, whether it's, you know, pushing marriage, whether it's pushing everyone having a mic and being on a stage, whether it's pushing that, you know, you need to have your purpose, you know, have your big church and your congregation, whatever it is that you're pushing through that imagery. And sometimes it's really people living their own lives, honestly.
It is.
But I think when people have platforms living their own lives, it's very important that you really teach a state of understanding your identity when it comes to the people that are watching you or that's following you. Because if you're just pushing so much imagery, but not understanding, hey, this is my life, this is my journey, you have to figure out what is exactly for you. And I just think that it's important to have that healthy balance.
It goes back to what we were talking about in one of our shows previously. I am in my process. You know, pretty much of what you're saying is a place of where I am right now, that I can't compare myself to feel comfortable or not have the confidence to move into what God has for me. For instance, I was talking with my sister and I was sharing with her that as a woman, particularly, I am not going to let anybody force me into believing that I have to be married to fulfill what God has for me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I believe in the union, but I'm not just going to get her over here and just go get married to be comfortable as a spiritual leader, to be comfortable as a pastor, or to be comfortable seen with men You know what I mean? Because of other people's comparison or insecurities or not trusting and knowing themselves.
Right.
You know, and I feel that pressure sometimes. You know what I mean? And many people do it. They just get married so they can be the pastor and say, I got a wife, or they can have that imagery, or they can have that so the people can follow them.
Right. And it's crazy that you're saying in your generation, because there's so many women in my generation who feel as if they have to have that husband to be able to step out and do what God called them to do, because that's what's being presented in front of them. And so really, when we talk about comparing Christians, and you talk about sitting in, you know, your own life, and you're comparing yourself to other, it allows you to start questioning God, to say, well, God, did you make a mistake? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Or you're forcing him or rushing him to do something that he was never trying to intend to do.
Right.
And it won't be done. Right. But you now start to abuse your own relationship with Christ because you're looking at everything else that's going on externally.
And if you really think about it, let's real talk. If I was to marry this wonderful, nice-looking, presentable man, this ministry of what I'm doing and the business of vision of what I'm doing and the mission, it would be a lot further along.
It would.
It would be. But that would be for the wrong reason.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I will be giving, and privately, I would not be happy because I would just be doing something, and so many people privately really is not happy.
Exactly.
But publicly, they have the image. Publicly, they have the following. Publicly, they have the ability to deter from how they feel and how unhappy they are because they put their energy into the other stuff, such as maybe the ministry or the business.
Exactly. And you teach about it all the time, because I feel like there is a place within the kingdom of God where men and women have to work together interdependently, and that's why we have dunamis women and real awesome men, because it is important.
Yes.
A man and a woman walking in their own authenticity and their purpose of what God called them to do can together go further than what they probably can do alone.
Most definitely.
However, we have to be mindful, and when it comes to comparing Christians, that we sometimes like to rush a process to get to that. And there's a lot of women who do settle to get that person because they feel like it's going to take them further. But it's the right man that is anointed for you, and that you guys are together, that together you would go further. And I see a lot of women dragging their husbands along, here, be the good imagery person, smile on the camera.
And the man is not happy.
And he's, exactly.
His heart or affection is somewhere on some other woman.
Exactly.
You know, real talk, you know what I mean? And they're fulfilling a role that deep down within, they have deviant behaviors. And it's not because they're a bad person. It's because they haven't stood up in their true self and say, this doesn't have to be because of what you're doing. This doesn't have to be. It's a lot of men, real talk, that have women who are covering up their homosexuality because they want the image that I am a whole man, you know, and because I got this woman. And the woman is not fulfilled emotionally. She's not receiving the affection.
Right.
I don't want to say sex because we don't need sex as women. We need affection.
Exactly.
She's not getting the regards of who she is, but she has the nice house. She has the bank account. She has the cars. She has the liberty to just do things that she is living of a certain status. I understand that, and I'm not going to even sugarcoat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're comparing. And we have to come out. Dunamis woman. When I say, I don't know if you ever heard me open up or close, and I said, I am a dunamis woman. I'm not just saying that to boast. The I am, that's where the power is.
Exactly.
You know, this is not dunamis women. And God told me that. He says it's not dunamis women, because every woman have to walk in her own authenticity. I'm going to bring all the women together, but each one has to stay true to themselves.
Right.
I teach that in emotional healing. I teach that in the ministry. I teach that in the business. I coach from that domain. Who are you? Don't compare yourself with myself. Don't compare yourself with somebody else. Stand up in the I am. Stand up, because in the I am is a movement. In the I am makes you manifest who you really are without thinking about it.
And I think it's so important that you mention that, because a lot of times when you think about comparing Christians, and I want to get your feedback on this when it comes to, people always say, as women, we should work together, right? We should be united. And I believe that's true. I believe collaboration is definitely important, but a lot of times when you think about comparing Christians and you're looking at another woman and you're seeing what she's doing, that collaboration sometimes isn't so genuine. And I was talking to someone the other day because I said, you know what, for me, I do believe in collaboration, but I believe in collaboration when we as two women understand and have a understanding of who I am on my own. And if you don't have that, there's no need for me to collaborate, because if you are not coming with this is who I am,
that's right,
and we are working together effectively,
that's right,
then there's no need for us to collaborate. And a lot of times women want to push that to say, well, we should be working together as women.
Well, and you know what, on the flip side of the coin, I say that because I understand the power in collaboration.
Right.
And I do extend myself. I extend myself from a pastoral perspective. I extend myself to other pastors. I don't want your church. I don't want your heathens. I don't want your problems, but I'm extending myself to lift you up and come up under your mission.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, in my case, many can't handle that because they're insecure. And when they hear people say, oh, Pastor D flares up their insecurity because they're so afraid, the people are going to gravitate towards me as opposed to them. And I'm not looking for people to gravitate, but I'm here to push them back into the place of where they're supposed to be, which is in that ministry for their benefit.
Right.
Because we haven't had that type of, I understand who I am. And for when I say, I don't want your people, I don't want your people. I could go in someone's house and it could be wonderful. I don't want it. You know why? Because I understand the cost of it. I don't want the bills. I don't want the maintenance. I don't want the cost. It's more to the adorning of it.
Exactly.
You know, I have to understand what I want and what I don't want, which inhibits me from comparing or taking what you got.
Yeah, because people look at the comparison, but they don't understand the sacrifices that come with what people have obtained or who people are. And I think when you're steady looking left or right, you miss the mark, and you're not really looking above to even say.
And not only looking above, but most of all, before we go on a break, you're not looking within. To know who you are requires you to look within. And when you look within, it will eliminate a lot of comparison, no matter if it's from a selfish gain or a materialistic gain. I am Dee Collins. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. There's more.
Have you visited our website? Go to www.dunamis-woman.com to learn more about us and our ministry and movement as we empower women to dig deeper in their faith and draw closer to the power of God. We look forward to speaking with you and connecting with you on your journey, because God is ready to move in and through you. So go to our website and connect with us at www.dunamis-woman.com.
How to Pray with Power on Purpose is a dynamic book by Dee Collins. If you want to activate your prayer life, get effective prayers, key strategies on how to change your life and experience breakthroughs in prayer, it is a must that you go to www.dunamis-woman.com and get your copy.
Well, we are back right here, Dunamis Woman Today, and we have been having such an enriching conversation talking about comparison, not only just comparison as being women or men, but more so being as a Christian, as a wonderful child of God. But Ariel, it's a process, isn't it?
It is. And before we go into comparing Christians, we're going to do our Dear Dee coming from our website. And it says, Pastor D, I think my daughter is being abused. She does not talk to me anymore. I'm worried. How do I bring this up to her? I hate her husband.
Wow. Well, that answers one of the questions that I had. She's married. And you have to realize that that's her husband. I know it's difficult, particularly as a mother, seeing your daughter, and I want to use the key word, your daughter. She's no longer your child, but she's your daughter. And when she's going through that process, but her marriage is her marriage, and that's her husband, and that's the choice that they made. Now, do you just say forget it? No, because she's in your heart. But you as a woman have to really get down on your knees and pray. You have to pray that God will first heal your heart, that you are able to see things from a perspective that you can administer to him love when you see him, and continue to administer your daughter love. And in doing so, I'm a living witness. She will begin to come to you as opposed to you going to her. When you go to your children, regardless of what age they are, they put a deaf ear. Am I right, Ariel?
Yeah.
Come on.
Sometimes.
Tell the truth. If I come to you and you're not really in the ready to hear, you will put a deaf ear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So prayer is my lifestyle, and it's my life because I believe in it so much that what I can't handle, God can. But he needs me as a vessel of love to continue to administer the love on his behalf so he can massage the heart of his people, your daughter. Because remember, her husband is still a soul. And if he's abusing her, he's a sick man in his emotions. But God wants to heal him. Now, if you need more, 1-855-BE-DUNAMIS, you're going to have to contact me because that's the truth.
Yes, that was interesting, dear Dee. But it goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about, because sometimes when you are comparing yourself to a lot of other people and you're comparing your situations, you could sometimes end up in situations because you are so ready for something that you're not, that really, you're rushing into something that's really not for you. And I'm not saying that's every situation that may come with an abusive relationship, but you are, when you're marrying or when you're getting to relationships for the imagery, you don't really know exactly who you're getting in the man.
Right, that's right.
And it's just so important to be mindful of that. But I want to go to a little bit of strategies, because it is important that people know when you think about a lot of comparison, it's all really in your mind.
It's in your mind.
Everything that's going on in your mind.
It's out of your insecurities.
Yeah, it's totally out of your insecurities. And so really, I want to kind of go into what are some strategies that you can do when it comes to when you find yourself comparing your purpose, when you find yourself comparing, you know, who you are, the way you look to other people. What are some sound strategies that you would give to women who find themselves often in the comparison game?
As I stated, it stems from your insecurities. So you got to start where it stems from. And if I am in a place of insecurity for many reasons, various reasons in my life, that means I need to really sit down and do some self-evaluation. A lot of our comparison, it comes from our repressed thoughts. That means it's thoughts that we have buried, and we have deeply buried from in the back of our mind, and it could go all the way back to childhood. Some of us are still dealing with rejection from the womb. Some of us are still dealing with things that was inflicted upon our mother, and we got that infliction through the womb. So it's not in our consciousness. That's why it's so important that you have a relationship with Christ, because he is our guide, and the Holy Spirit, his function, his responsibility is to lead us and guide us into truth. God had to reveal some things to me, and you all were kids, I was married, and paying my own bills, what I consider grown, you know, and he had to reveal some things to me that I didn't even know about. My mother didn't tell me, you know, but I knew it was truth because it flared up my fear. It flared up something on the inside of me, and I wanted to repress it, you know what I mean? But I knew I couldn't stay the same.
Right.
Let me say this to you and to you. The pain of change is far greater than the pain of being the same. And I had to go through the pain of change, because the pain of being the same, it was literally killing me emotionally. So the strategy is to really sit down. I call it me time. Like I'm implementing in various communities, places that I go, conversation and coffee with Dee. Sometimes we don't need church. We don't need an empowerment setting, you know what I mean? We don't need this wonderful event. We don't need these motivational speakers, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that to knock it, because I am a speaker and all of that. But sometimes you just need to have a downright conversation and some coffee, and let's just talk about some life.
That's true, and that doesn't come often, you know what I mean?
And that's why I'm doing it. And in the community.
Yeah, it definitely does not come often to be able to allow yourself to just open up your heart and be able to say, hey, this is what, you know, I'm going through. Because I think a lot of times we like to stay in our head, and we don't really like to tell people what these insecurities are or where we are, you know, and how we're questioning our own self. And it's good to be able to have that camaraderie to come together and say, okay, you know what? This is where I am in my process, and I need some help. I need some encouragement. I need some motivation to be able to keep going, and just have those open conversations, because it's so needed for the soul to be able to have that.
And the beautiful part, you've experienced, because you've been a part of it, you know, naturally, you've been a part of it. When I have emotional healing clinics, it was so beautiful. coaching for me is so easy because I'm really used by the Holy Spirit as a guide. But you know who really see into the souls of each other is the women that's in the midst.
Yeah.
You know, because when I create that participatory environment, Sally could be talking and Sally could be sharing her heart, and guess what? Jane can see some things in her that Sally can't see. So I'm just navigating Jane to know how to speak her thoughts really to Sally, because I don't have to do the work.
Right.
We see it within each other. But sometimes we're so busy comparing, and when we compare, particularly for those who are in our inner circle, we try to prevent them from going through their process, because girl, I went through that, and I ain't gonna go through that, and you shouldn't have to go through that either. And what I found, Ariel, is the very thing that they tell you to do. And when you're talking to your girlfriend or your that woman who I consider still a female, they can't do it themselves.
No, they can't. And you just give that advice. But even for my generation, though, I think one of the big things that we implement, or that I try to implement, that I encourage my generation, is that taking a break literally from social media. I mean, it could be 2-month to 3-month break of just really alleviating, deleting Facebook, Instagram. You do not owe anyone any updates that are going on in your life. And I think sometimes and not just taking a break and you just delete it, but replacing it with something else, like every day reading your word. Because you'll be surprised how many times we pick up our phone and scroll to Instagram or look at what's going on in someone else's life, and we don't literally take a mental break and go away from it. And we pretend as if we were born with this stuff. And we really aren't. And so sometimes people say, oh, Ariel, you were on Instagram for 5 days. I don't have to be.
You don't have to be.
You are not obligated to. No. I don't got 100,000 followers. I'm not obligated to. I'm not getting paid to post on social media yet, you know, so I don't have to update you. That's not my job. You know what I mean? Right. So it's okay sometimes to really take that break, because we always have to be mindful to go back to the times before we had any of this stuff. And I think that it's okay to be able to bring that suffering to yourself, and you will be able to see if that is a place that you are suffering, because you get the itches and the urge, just like you're going through rehab. Of what you're looking at.
And we got to be cognizant that we don't misuse things that could be used for a wholesome manner, that it can become a destructive thing.
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of comparison on social media, you know, especially when it comes to relationships. So we try to create stuff for our lives to make us look good, you know, and we get into some stuff that you ain't really getting the real deal.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you have to really say, you know what, let me not put my validity in this. You know, people say, well, oh, Devetta, you on social media. Trust me, I'm on there because of my business and because of my brand. And you all even have to tell me, Ma, you need to do this, Ma, you need to do that, because it's business. But personally, there's certain things you don't need to know. I don't have to prove what I am and what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And who I am. I don't have to say, okay, I'm over here and I'm getting on a plane going to Puerto Rico.
Right.
You know?
Right. No, that's so true.
You don't have to do that, because you're comparing how many people can travel and go. Your life is your life.
Right.
And you require some intimacy. Intimacy is with yourself. I don't need everybody in my private life. And see, that's what I was talking about the last time, as far as that process. I had to go through a process to learn that.
Yeah, because pictures never tell the real story.
Oh, no.
And I'm definitely very open and honest when people be able to come to me or talk to me about really the things that I'm going through, or the things that are going on in my life. Not that they need all the information, but sometimes I talk to one of my friends who is big on social media. I mean, has a huge following. She's like, you know, I'm depressed. I'm struggling. Sometimes I don't even want to get out of bed. You know what I mean? And it's good to be able to have those conversations, because what everyone else sees is not what the reality is going on. And not that everyone has that, you know, reality, but things, you know, financial situations that could be going on. You know, you look at all the pictures, but you don't know the sacrifice that God is really calling you to do to pursue what He really called you to do, because things are not always black or white. You know, there's things that are really a strong struggle. And I think a lot of times when it goes to comparing Christians, they want what looks good, but they don't want to go through the sacrifice to obtain that.
They don't want to go through the sacrifice. The reason why this show is based truly, as the guests on this show tell their story, we tell our story, is really the core of it is life and relationships. And I think that that's paramount. I know that that's paramount in this day, in this hour, because we're losing that. Many people don't know how to handle themselves Because the only reason why I grow is because I have relationship with people. Technology in your era of time is moving you all away from that because your relationship is text messaging, your communication is text messaging. Even mega churches, be careful. You could lose yourself because you don't have really true relationships. I'm old school. I came from a little, as you was asking me this morning, Ma, did you really sing them old songs? Yes, I did. Because you know what? Back then, the women of old taught us how to be in a relationship with one another. It was only 25 of us in a church, so we were family and we had relationships. We was taught how to communicate. And I want to admonish you, this is not a platform for us to just think, Ariel and I, that we're all this and all that, or you could just see us on social media. Yes, you can, but we're admonishing you to get connected. I want you to be a part of my conversations and coffee with Dee. Why? Because it's just a small, intimate setting that we could just have real talk as women and get to learn one another. And it's nothing better than doing that over a cup of coffee. Well, that's it for today. I am Dee, and I would love to see you. Give me a call, 1-855-BE-DUNAMIS, and you also know how to contact us going through our website, www.dunamis-woman.com. God bless, and no comparison.
Have you ever heard the proverb, iron sharpens iron? Now that's a dunamis woman. Join DeVetta D. Collins, spiritual leader and coach, for conversations and coffee every first and third Saturday at Sprinkles Donuts and Coffee Shop, 2000 Mirror Lake Boulevard in Villa Rica, Georgia, from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be impacted and inspired to take your life and relationships to the next level in 2018.
A man cannot truly love a woman until he has submitted or surrendered to something bigger than him. For me, that is God, and that is my purpose. When you understand that, then you begin to understand life. Then you begin to respect life, and that allows you to respect a woman. Now guess what? There's benefits to this love. When you really start to love, your life starts to change.
There used to be a time where I could meet you and say, hey, how are you doing? My name's Jack. It's nice to meet you. Can I take you out? Versus like submit or click or like or love or all of these different things that are basically taking away the human connection. So for me, I'm old school. I like the idea of a man pursuing a woman. And those are the things that I try to teach as much as possible to women to be attracted to men who are all about that. Not just a guy that just texts you, but a guy that actually pursues you for who you are and the woman that he wants to be with in long-term relationships.
Y'all just try to tell black women not to be in relationships. You just want to keep the black woman single. But here's the issue. We're trying to keep you from the result of what we know is going to come. And when we tell you to wait on the Lord, it means, like I've told you before, it is a binding of the cords together. God is saying, if you're waiting on me, then I'm binding something. I'm doing something that you can't see. And most of the work that needs to be done is not in the one who's coming, but it's in you.
Taking authority.